What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So let's start this video with the update of 7 times Mr Olympia, one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, Phil Heath. So Phil Heath has been retired for 4 years now. His last Olympia competition was back in 2020, and one of the major things that he lost after stepping away from professional bodybuilding, those were his delts. So when Phil Heath came onto the scene, one of the biggest drawbacks that he had were his shoulders. More specifically his shoulder-to-shoulder width. But damn did Hani Rembrandt and Phil Heath work their magic. And Phil Heath was able to build one of the most impressive delts. And it wasn't only just his shoulders, his big feather triceps, that also helped him create that insane illusion on the stage. And that was really evident every time he walked out on that stage for his individuals. So Phil's arms are still so massive, and I bet he hasn't even been training regularly. So Phil is gonna be turning 45 in a few months, and he still looks so great for his age. Now most of us would agree that the Ronnie Coleman 03 version, that would definitely beat Phil Heath 2011 and 2013 version, but that would still be a close contest. Now Phil won the Olympias that year quite handedly. For instance, he had no competition whatsoever in 2016 either, when Sean Ray was the runner-up. But if you ask anyone which was the best version of Phil Heath, majority of them will say 2011, because that physique was just on a whole different level. The dryness that he had that year, the hardness, the graininess, and the kind of muscle quality that he had that year. He had those deep abs, very tiny midsection, and that is why he walked all over the competition back then. So I think most of us would also agree that he would have equaled the record of Ronnie Coleman if it wasn't for his hernia problem. Logan Franklin's physique update is next. So we have seen so many guys bring their career's best look under the watchful eyes of Patrick Tuor as a coach. And the fact that Logan has been working with Patrick for quite some time now, that gives us a positive vibe that he is gonna show up at his all-time best at the Olympia in October. So what did you guys think? Where will he land if he shows up at his career's best at the Olympia this year? I have to say at this moment, no one can really predict that. Now if Logan is 100% for this year's Mr Olympia, even then there are so many talented guys out there, even guys who are potentially gonna be outside of the top 5, from 6th onwards. They have such damn good physiques, and they're also absolutely mind-blowing. So for 6 weeks out, Logan looks to be right on the money. The condition, the flow, everything is on point, especially for this pose, which by the way isn't a mandatory pose, but a lot of classic guys like to hit that as their favorite classic pose. So Logan in his last 2 competitions, he hasn't been that impressive. And one of the major reasons for that is he was coaching himself. He did not have a proper coach. And I have to say at such higher levels, every small detail matters. So he stood next to Robert Timms and Jehan Park in Texas and Terence Sufrin at the Regent Sports. And he wasn't good enough to win either of those shows. But this is a whole new level of detail that we are seeing right now, that he aims to bring at this year's Miss Olympia stage. And also keep in mind, he is gonna be stepping back on the Olympia stage after 4 years. There has been a lot of trash talk thrown towards Samson Lee after this year's Arnold in Olympus, because him and Milos Sarcev, they parted ways after that show as an athlete and a coach. And maybe Milos's fans, they did not like the way it ended. And the trash talk still continues to this day, especially when Samson Lee's wife, when she comes into the picture as his current coach. And I have to say, let's admit one thing. Whatever Samson and his wife have been doing throughout this time, that has worked wonderfully so far in Samson's favor, as he looks bigger, more detailed, and more sharper than ever. Especially for 6 weeks out, he has never looked this good. So every now and then, Samson also drops subtle hints and indirect responses towards everyone who believe he isn't gonna do that well without his former coach Milos. And here is his latest response. And you can just feel that Samson took all that criticism to heart. He took all that backlash very personally. And he has been using that in the gym. He has been using that as an extra motivation to drive himself even further than his limits, especially in his workouts. Now the success that Samson had in the last 2 years, all the IFB pros have such dream to have that kind of success in just a matter of 2 years. So he was top 6 at his Olympia debut, top 3 in his second attempt, and right now he's entering this year's show as a legitimate contender for this year's Miss Olympia title. And yes, we all know he is gonna lose the back shots to both Hadi and Derek, but there are 6 other poses as well, and Samson is impressive in all of them. So we know Chris Cormier isn't training Rubiel Mosera at the moment, but he did confirm that Rubiel is doing Italy Pro, which is scheduled this upcoming weekend. So Chris revealed that on the latest episode of the Menace podcast. And let's just hope that this news is true.
What'd you say?
Is Rubiel competing?
Yes, he is.
Huh? Good.
What do he look like?
Yes, he is.
Do you know what he looks like?
No, I do not.
No.
So the upcoming UK Pro, that is also going to be in their minds. In fact, that is going to be the show that Rubiel can actually win, because Hunter most probably isn't doing that one. And the look that Rubiel brought in Dubai, if he can bring just a entire package compared to that, that is going to be enough to win UK Pro. So nobody really thinks that Rubiel was way off in Dubai, especially in terms of conditioning. It's just that the caliber of competition, especially the kind of conditioning that guys like Barros Tabani and William Bonac brought to the stage, that was just way too good for Rubiel. So if Rubiel does this year's Italy as well as UK Pro, and hopefully qualifies for this year's Mr Olympia, he is gonna be such a good addition to this year's Olympia lineup. He is gonna hype up the Olympia so much more. Now he has all the mass that is needed to be a top 10 finisher at his first ever Miss Olympia, especially if he can bring the condition. So for now, all of us wanna see him next to Hunter Labrada and see how he compares with a top Olympian. Now we all know Hunter is just on a whole different level, especially in comparison to Rubiel. The kind of quality that he has, that is just way too much. But the comparison is gonna give us a very solid idea of how big Hunter really is this time. Next up, we have an update from Martin-Fitzwater. So he is going through some of the most brutal workouts with his training partner Brett Wilkin. So back in the day, we had Brad Warren and Johnny Jackson. And right now we have Martin and Brett, who are more or less on the same level. Especially the kind of intensity that these guys have in their workouts. That is just on a whole different level. So I'm sure we all really want to see how Martin compares with the likes of Rafael Brundle, because this is most probably going to be the comparison we are going to see in 6 weeks' time. Unless Martin actually shocks the entire bodybuilding world and he actually pushes Nick Walker and also Brandon Carey out of their first call out. I mean, that is going to be totally nuts. Because the thing is, that is what he intends to do. And we have to keep in mind, a lot of bodybuilding experts actually believe that he can actually do that. And just like Nick Walker, Martin is also very confident and very brave in speaking up his mind. And I have to say he should be confident based on how he performed at this year's New York Pro. So that physique is the gold standard for Martin right now. That is the one to beat at this year's Miss Olympia. And if he's able to bring that same shortness, that same conditioning with the added size, it is absolutely gonna be game on. So Martin's aesthetics, along with his ability to get bone shredded and insanely peeled, that is what makes him so formidable, even for his first ever Miss Olympia. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.